The European Parliament is the only group of lawmakers in the world that can't pass any laws unless the unelected bureaucrats agree to it. Dealing with the huge amount of mass illegal immigration that's taking place in the United Kingdom, all these policies that are being touted have to be funded, and it's the businesses, it's the taxpayers.
Hello and welcome to the MoneyMagpie Invest podcast. I'm Jasmine Birtles, founder of MoneyMagpie.com. And before I say anything else, do remember that nothing that is said in this podcast should be taken as financial advice. It's financial information. Oh, and do make sure that you are subscribed and that you're following us, that you're liking and commenting. Do comment. I always look at the comments and I do reply to them. Oh, and tell all your friends, of course, all that usual stuff. But I've got that out of the way. So now I'd like to introduce you to my special guest, who is Jim Ferguson, who is the founder of Freedom Train International and also is now an international ambassador for Advance UK. Hello, Jim.
Well, hello, Jasmine. It's great to see you again. How are you?
Oh, good. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for coming onto the podcast, because I thought of you when I saw the news that the French economy really genuinely looks like it's about to collapse. What are your feelings about it? Do you think that's true? Do you think that it is about to collapse, as many reports are saying? And if so, why?
Yes, there are reports that it's in pretty bad shape, and there's a number of factors for that, Jasmine. I think France isn't alone in this. The UK is facing similar challenges. Many other European nations are facing similar financial challenges. And I mean, when you think about the amount of money that has been sent to Ukraine, for example, a huge billions and billions of euros that have been sent there. And then, of course, you've got all of the additional costs dealing with the huge amount of mass illegal immigration that's taking place in the United Kingdom. For example, they're being housed in a lot of those hotels. It's costing the British taxpayer many, many millions every week. And then France is not in a good position either, because Macron's government has once again been so adamant that he's going to send French taxpayers' money by the billions to Ukraine once again. So there is a real financial strain. Some would argue, Jasmine, that it's deliberate to cause chaos within the economies, because they're very, very interested in ushering in their new central bank digital currency scheme. Madame Lagarde of the IMF and others who have also been pushing for this for some time are now looking at October as being the date that they might actually introduce that. And that's caused a lot of concern about loss of privacy and all the things that go along with that. So it gives the governments huge control if they do move it that way. But yes, there is concern that this has maybe been steered in that direction.
And isn't the really big problem the huge benefits bill? Like in Britain, we have an insane benefits bill, particularly for the older people. And I remember I was in Paris last year when the government basically collapsed because they were trying to put through what I thought was actually quite mild, quite sensible ideas through their budget of increasing by 1 year or maybe 2 years the age at which people could retire. At the moment, they retire at 60. I mean, here it's going towards 67. And these sort of things, these cuts that they have not been allowed to make, surely these are the big things that have pushed them over the edge.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's all very well to lower the retirement age. I mean, we all like the idea of that, but it's got to be funded somehow. And there is an aging population in Europe and, of course, in the United Kingdom as well. And I think that one of the things that we've got to look at is that all these policies that are being touted have to be funded. And it's the businesses, it's the taxpayers, the employees that pay their taxes that have to fund it. But there is a finite amount of money. And I think we've seen really bad governance with Macron's government. I think it's one of the things that's caused a lot of consternation with Marine Le Pen, who is the presidential candidate. And indeed, I met with her privately about 8 weeks ago. So with very senior members of the French National Assembly as well. And she, of course, is doing really very well in the polls right now. And of course, she's been reacting to the latest news about the possibility that IMF might get involved with France, and she's not happy about that at all. Neither wonder. But it's been rolled back. So the finance minister, his name is Eric Lombard, he said that there might have to be an intervention. And of course, that blew up across the whole of the media in France. He then walked it back within 24 hours, saying, "Oh, no, that's not really what I was meaning. I'm sure it won't happen. France can finance itself." Well, I'm not so sure. I think that the French economy is not good. I mean, if you take the second quarter of 2025, it rose by 0.3%. Well, not a huge amount, but that was up from 0.1% in the previous quarter. And it's expected to stay around about the 0.2% mark. So the economy is not doing terribly well. Unemployment at the moment is sitting around about 7.5%, and that's expected to sort of bottom out or top out round about the 8% mark. So there's a lot of money that's been paid out in welfare, of course, and then of course you've got all these mass amounts of illegal migrant men coming in, and it's worth pointing out that these are not asylum seekers; these
Well,
are young men.
yes, exactly. And the other thing, of course, that we're thinking here on the other side of La Manche is that we're in a similar situation. And, various people, including myself, have mentioned the fact that I think the IMF is waiting in the wings for us. Well, if they're going to go to France first, does that mean that France is going to get all the money? And if we need some extra help, it's not going to be there?
Well, I suppose if you actually understand how the finances work, they don't really have the money. They print money. They make money. They it's figures on a balance sheet. So of course the IMF would take every opportunity to do something similar to the United Kingdom if that ever was needed. Let's hope it's not. But there is talk about Rachel Reeves making such a disaster of the economics within the United Kingdom that may actually, in fact, the news of Britain potentially having to go to the IMF broke several days ago. And that was prior to the news that France might have been looking at something similar. So once again, there is this kind of concern that it's been steered towards almost like a managed decline to usher in central bank digital currencies. Of course, with digital ID, they go hand in hand. But yes, there is deep concern that in France, this is what's going to happen. And of course, French people are suffering. I mean, there is some good news. I mean, the consumer prices actually rose, but energy prices rose by 0.9% as well. But the overall cost for energy fell to around 6%. So that helped a long way, or certainly went to a long way to sort of mitigating some of the fallout, as it were. But yeah, it is a possibility. And of course, Marine Le Pen has pushed back on this. She said, we would have a counter proposal for that. Her deputy Bordello has said the same thing. And in fact, she's saying, look, the situation is so precarious. They should immediately call for an election. And indeed, I think that the Prime Minister himself, Francois Bayrou, has said that there's going to be a confidence vote on the 8th of September. So that's not far away. So I think what we're looking at potentially is real fireworks in the French political arena. They've launched a lot of lawfare against Marine Le Pen, of course, as well.
Yes. And I'm wondering about the bond market. I mean, it's something that I've been concerned about for a while. In this country, as you know, we have 100% debt to GDP ratio, which is horrendous. But in France, it's 112%, or last time I looked, it was 112% debt to GDP ratio. And I'm guessing that as lenders across the world are looking askance at our figures and the state of borrowing in the Britain, they must be looking askance even more. They must be even more worried about lending more money to France. And that surely could have a really bad effect on the bond markets.
Well, absolutely, and you just need to look at if you're talking about investments in either the United Kingdom, France, or any other country. You're going to find that there is a real concern. People are actually not wanting to invest, certainly not in the United Kingdom. Indeed, there's 14,000 high earners. I mean, we're talking about millionaire plus who have 14,000 of them who have pulled out of the United Kingdom within the last 12 to 13 months. That's highly significant. So when you see the moneyed people, the businesses, those top earners who understand the markets, the bond markets, and all the other things that are connected to that, pulling out, then that's a real, like a canary in the coal mine situation. We look at that and we go, right, okay, how do we mitigate that? And that's why there is such a rush now into gold and silver, both in the retail side. So the retail side is your coins, your gold coins, your sovereigns, your maples, your eagles, whatever currency you're talking about. And on the other side, you've got the investments. So people are actually looking at putting their pensions, for example, into gold with different companies that can cater to that. And gold in particular has always been the safe haven. You don't invest in money in gold to make money. It's not like the stock market, but you do it to protect and insulate your wealth. People are looking at other assets, of course, as well. So when you see people doing that en masse, and the prices of gold, of course, have been steadily rising, quite dramatically, actually, over the course of the last 2 to 3 years as well. So that's always an indication as well, as the bond markets are, with those investors maybe trying to look at alternatives, but not investing.
Oh, couldn't agree more. At Money Magpie, we're big fans of gold right now, have been for a few years. And I like you, I think it's going to continue for a few more years. Basically, the worse the world economy gets, the better for gold and to a degree, Bitcoin as well. So, it's going to be interesting to watch. And I'd just like to go back to you mentioned meeting Marine Le Pen and saying that she's got a plan. They always do. Politicians who are not in power always have a plan, and it's always better than whatever's going on at the moment. But do you think that she really does have the potential if she got in and she's riding high in the polls? So if her party won, do you think they really could sort out the economy? Would the voters allow them? Because it's going to have to include massive cuts.
Well, I mean, certainly she said that she has a plan. Recently, in recent news headlines, she said that they absolutely have a plan. But I think there's a lot of government waste. I think there's a huge amount of government waste. If I once again I go back to the opening parts of the show where I talked about the huge amount of money that's being given to Ukraine, I think that is a real bone of contention when French people are struggling to heat their homes, to buy food, and they really are. I mean, it's bad in France, it's bad in the United Kingdom, it's bad in a lot of places right across Europe. And I think there's a growing feeling that these globalists that have sort of positioned themselves into those positions of power are pursuing globalist policies rather than national policies, putting their own people first, Jasmine. That's what's caused such consternation here in the United Kingdom. And I can tell you, having met Marine Le Pen, she is deeply patriotic. She is fiercely loyal to France and to her country. But she's also very, very keen to work with people on the international circuit. And that's why I was introduced to her. And she's certainly very much aware of what's going on in other nations around her. But those of us that are patriots, those of us that care about our countries, are increasingly working together, not just in Europe, but in the United States as well. I can tell you, I've been to many, many conferences and meetings over the course of the last 4 to 5 months with such very, very strong American representation there as well. So there's a lot of things happening. But yes, Marine Le Pen, I believe she does have the answers. And I think because of her deep understanding of the economy in France, she's most definitely working out things that can be done to mitigate the fallout of this. But we might be seeing an election happen in France a lot sooner than we're thinking. She's ready for it. She's been campaigning for the last 20 years. She's got a good deputy in Bordello. And the National Assembly, the members of the French National Assembly that I met, are incredibly clever people. So I think that if they get the opportunity, they will seize it, and they will turn things around in France for sure. I think you're going to see, once again, things like the huge influx of mass illegal immigration being stopped pretty quickly. They might even go down the route of deportations. I don't know, but certainly there is a feeling that the French people themselves, the taxpayers, the people that are footing this dreadful drain on the economy, are pretty much fed up with it. So I think Marine Le Pen stands a good chance of being the next president of France. I hope so anyway. I liked her, I must admit. She had a huge respect for her.
And from national to outside, supranational, What do you think this is going to do to the EU? Because France is the second biggest economy in the EU after Germany. If they falter, and they are faltering, surely that's going to have a knock-on effect on the EU, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Germany has been the engine room of the economy since the United Kingdom pulled out. Had been a very strong economy, but they're not any longer. They're faltering as well. Once again, the same situation, mass uncontrolled immigration causing all sorts of problems, the rise of the AfD. And I've spoken to many there as well in Germany, but certainly with regards to what you're saying in France, I think if this continues, it could put Ursula von der Leyen, the president, under serious pressure. But also, I think there's a lot of people saying, look, not everything within the EU is necessarily bad. I would incline to agree with that. But I think the biggest problem for me and those like us is the EU Commission, that unelected group of bureaucrats who never get voted in, they never get replaced. It's a big boys and a big girls club. And if you're in the club, it's great. And you get all of these perks and you make all these decisions. But, the European Parliament is the only group of lawmakers in the world that can't pass any laws unless the unelected bureaucrats agree to it. That's not what I call democracy. So there's a lot of people like George Simeon in Romania. Once again, I've become good friends with George Simeon. He is the presidential candidate for Romania. I was over there with him and campaigning with him. And others, Viktor Orban, many others who I've met and spoken with and members of their cabinets who feel that in actual fact, we need better leadership right across the EU. Ursula von der Leyen just isn't cutting it. Madame Lagarde isn't cutting it. These people really need to be moved aside, and they need to get strong leadership in to make Europe great again. And there's a huge push for that. And everybody's heard about making America great again and the MAGA movement. Well, there's a mega movement now that is thundering across Europe, thundering across borders. I'm part of it. I've been speaking at events. The last one I was at was in Moldova, where I spoke about the importance of European unity, because unity is strength, and working with our partners around the world to ensure that national sovereignty is never replaced by a tainted globalism. So we're pushing back very hard on it, and I do think we're going to see some big changes. Let's hope that France can get its books in order, and if not, then let's see if Marine Le Pen can come up with the goods. I believe she will. I would love to see Marine Le Pen in as president. I'd love to see George Simeon in as Romanian president. And I'd love to see Viktor Orban and those types of leaders coming in and taking proper control of the EU, away from the bureaucrats, away from the technocrats. Get real leadership in there. I think it would make all the difference.
Well, if the polls are to be believed, then it's a shoe-in for all of them, right, at the moment. Certainly in Germany, France, Britain, and already in Italy, of course. It is the populist parties that are in and getting in. Jim, thank you so much indeed for coming on. This has been Jim Ferguson. Thank you so much for talking about France. This is something we're all going to be following very closely. And as you say, it looks like there's going to be a general election very soon. So we'll probably come back and revisit this subject, and hope to be able to interview you again at some point soon, Jim.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Jasmine. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's been Jim Ferguson here on the Money Magpie Invest podcast. I'm Jasmine Birtles. Thank you for watching. As I said at the start, make sure that you are following us, you're subscribed, you're commenting and telling all your friends about it. Do like as well, hit that like button, that would be great. And see you next week.